Continuing with our conversation about roles and responsibility, this week's episode is especially for my people leaders and entrepreneurs who are building and structuring their people and culture department. We are back for another Ask HR episode. If this is your first time listening, welcome and thank you for tuning in. Ask HR is the podcast dedicated to being your trusted resource outside of your company walls. We are an external human resources department answering HR questions with expert insight and practical solutions, all while covering broader topics in people and culture. I'm your host, Yusin Young. Whether you're navigating individual workplace challenges, building your business, or leading teams, we've got you covered. Join me every week as we answer your HR questions with real-world strategies to help you navigate the day-to-day. Ask HR is proudly sponsored by YP Personnel Management and Consulting. We are a strategic, tactical, and practical HR solutions consulting firm. We are your resources at work. Let's get started. So too often we are assuming that our employees and our team knows what they're supposed to be doing. And we all know what happens when we assume, right? As leaders, clarity starts with us. Last week, we discussed the difference of roles and responsibility. That the role represents the why, the purpose of the position, and why it exists within the company. Why do we need it? Then the responsibilities, which represents the what your employee does regularly to fulfill their role. And the question this week is, how can we people leaders and HR leaders better structure the job description that reflects the work that we need our employees to do and aligns with our business goals and our strategy? Just like our employee-focused conversation, we're highlighting how important it is to lead with clarity or simplicity, because leadership starts with having a clearly defined role and responsibility. And remember, this is not a HR task. It is a collaborative task. And before we dive in, this episode of Ask HR is brought to you by YP Personnel Management and Consulting, referred as YPPMC. We are your resources at work. With a collective of 20 years of experience amongst our consultants, YPPMC brings the strategies, the solutions, and the expertise to simplify your HR services. Whether you are a small organization, an entrepreneur, a solopreneur, or a growing business. Because when HR works, your business thrives. Learn more at yppmc.com. Let's start with what we know. Job descriptions are not just an administrative checklist. They are the leadership tools. They lay the foundation for defining the roles, setting the expectation, and driving accountability across the company. In today's conversation, we're focusing on 3 layers to help strengthen the foundation of the job description. There are 3 key standards that we're going to share to follow, and those standards are grounded in the guidance from the Department of Labor and the Society of Human Resources Management. And these standards will ensure structure, compliance, and consistency. Another layer is we have some practical framework that has worked for us and our clients. It's a 4-part clarity model, which brings roles and responsibilities to life in a meaningful and actionable way. And we're also going to expand on best practices as our 3rd layer, starting with the why. Why is the role, and it is your North Star. Why the position matters, where the employee fit in the organizational structure, who they report to, what is the line of authority, how their role connects to the bottom line. We as leaders rarely explain the bottom line. The what is the responsibilities, what the employee is going to be accountable for, and how they're going to fulfill their purpose through their daily or weekly activities. So here's an example of the what. This position will be responsible to manage a 7-member marketing team. They will be training, cross-training in the areas of marketing, such as brand, communication, and promotion. This position is also leading cross-functional meetings and facilitating performance reviews. So, a clearly defined role will give your employee purpose, and the clear responsibilities is going to give them the direction. And so, how can we hold our employees and team accountable to something they can't see nor do they understand? This is why both the why and the what need to be very clear in every single job description. A little bit more about our sponsor. Let's learn more about our sponsor, YP Personnel Management and Consulting. At YPPMC, we're not just about advice. Whether you need strategic HR planning, tactical execution, or practical day-to-day support, we've got you covered. Elevate your business with client-focused, responsive, ethical, and result-driven HR solutions. Visit yppmc.com and learn how we can be of help. We are your resources at work. Okay. Your mission, if you choose to accept it, I've always wanted to say that, is to lead with clarity, compliance, and consistency. And you do this by creating a strong, compliant job description. Again, it's a shared responsibility, one where HR is going to take the lead. So partner with your HR team before posting or finalizing the job description, especially before issuing it, because we are going to make sure it's reviewed and blessed with legal. For our 3 key standards that are grounded in guidance from the Department of Labor and SHRM, be clear and accurate in your role definition. Define and outline the essential functions and identify the key task for the business need. The Department of Labor encourages you to focus on the core functions that are truly going to drive the job. The second standard is compliance. Make sure the job description comply with the federal, the state, and local laws. This is how we work with legal to ensure that the accurate disclaimers, the classification, and the accommodation language is included. And the last key standard is to use your HR approved templates, the ones that we're going to work really hard on collaboratively, so that you have the same tone, the consistency, because the templates would have already had key elements like the core competencies, the physical demands and work environment, as well as the EEO and compliance language. Remember that EEO is equal employment opportunity. In addition to those foundational standards, we have a practical framework that's worked for us. And we use it in 4 parts. The first part is definition. Second part is scope. The third part is focus. And last but not least, importance. In the definition, we ask and guide our people leaders to clearly define the job's purpose. And we ask, what is the position meant to achieve at a high level? When we get to the scope, we say, describe the boundaries of the role. Consider which departments or stakeholders or goals does this role impact. For the focus, what should the person in this role be known for? Here's a tip. This will build the identity and influence, both internally and externally. And for the importance, why does this role matter to the business strategy? And this is where you're going to highlight the connection to growth, innovation, stability, and so forth. Let's not forget the employee acknowledgement. This is where we're going to make space for our employees to ask questions. And for the love of people, commit to regular reviews. Our job descriptions should evolve with the business. This means regular feedback and annual updates, especially if and when a role has changed, the department has shifted, or there's just any major growth. While there is no federal mandate that requires periodic updates for job description, it is considered a best practice to review job description annually or whenever there is a significant change. This will ensure that the job description aligns with the actual duties being performed and remain legally compliant. Having a standardized, compliant template ready to go isn't just helpful, it is essential. It ensures the fair hiring practice. It's going to align with the organizational standard. It will support internal equity and mitigate good old risk. Here are a few additional tips and our last layer in best practices to deepen the value of the job description. Write with clarity and purpose. So that means use bullet points, active verbs, and focus on what matters. Avoid the jargon. Keep it as easy to read. Promote equity and consistency. We're talking about using inclusive language across similar roles. Remember to highlight core and leadership competencies. Use models like SHRM to identify essential skills such as emotional intelligence and collaboration. One last message from our sponsor. And before we wrap up our episode, thank you to our sponsor, YP Personnel Management and Consulting. YPPMC goes beyond the traditional HR consulting by offering a comprehensive suite of HR services and compliance, HR technology, leadership and development, and more. These services collectively support your HR operations. Visit yppmc.com and book your free consultation today. We are your resources at work. Remember, HR, we are here to support you in just about all of your people and cultural needs within reason. Is my team clear on the purpose and expectations of their roles and responsibility? You now have the guidance to make sure they do. My challenge to you is take a moment to revisit how your team's job description is structured, because again, clarity creates confidence. If you've missed the last episode on clarity in the job descriptions, it was a conversation for employees. Go back and take a listen and share it with your team. If and when you need help, we certainly can help you. Just contact us at askhr@yppmc.com. And that is going to wrap up this week's Ask HR conversation. Thank you for tuning in. You can now watch the full video on Spotify and YouTube and listen on your favorite podcast platform. We appreciate your ongoing support. Subscribe, follow, and engage with us.